Hello, everybody. Welcome to my workshop. This is Professor Resin, and I am going to show you, provided you're a newbie to this, and this is the first time you're looking into doing epoxy resin and would like to do it. What do you need is your question. What do I need to get started? Well, I'm going to hopefully answer that question for you. So the first thing you're going to need is personal protection because resin contains volatile organic compounds, otherwise known as VOCs, which can cause respiratory problems. It can cause infections. It can cause allergic reactions. And that usually happens by breathing it in. So the first thing you want to do is go and get yourself a respirator, not a mask, a respirator. A respirator contains activated carbon that will take a VOC and convert it into a harmless gas like CO2. And it will also have a pre-filter on it to keep out dust. So a regular mask, like an N95, just blocks dust. It doesn't block anything smaller than, say, 1 micron. And it doesn't block chemical vapors, which is what resin gives off. One of these will cover your nose and your mouth. It has a one-way valve, so you inhale, it goes through the filter. When you exhale, it goes out the valve and keeps you safe. So you'll want one of these. This is a paint respirator. This is used for painting cars. I used to paint cars. That is actually paint. That's what you would breathe in. This would be going into your lungs if you didn't have one of these. When you have this on, you cannot smell the paint. You cannot smell the thinners or anything. It just smells like clean air. If you start to smell resin wearing one of these, it's time to replace it. There are models that have replaceable canisters. This one does not. These are fixed. Once I could smell something through these, that's it. Toss it away, get a new one. Your other form of protection are gloves. You'll want to get some nitrile gloves, preferably powder-free, because some people have reactions to the talc. So they also have reactions to vinyl. So you want to stay away from vinyl gloves if you're allergic to it. If you don't know if you're allergic to it, that's another reason to stay away from it. Nitrile is a good subject. Nitrile is good stuff, man. It's good. It's good stuff, man. These are 4 mil gloves. These have a pretty good thickness to it, a little thicker than most garbage bags. So you can put them on without poking fingers through it or pulling them apart. I've had some other gloves that you put them on and they break. They just break when you put them on. But these have been pretty good. I got these from Menards. There were 74 pairs in the pack. Try saying that real quick. It's like pigs in a poke in the blanket and Peter Piper picked a peck of whatever. You know, you get the picture. These are nitrile gloves. I got them at Menards. Normally there are 50 gloves to a pack, but it was a bonus, so there was 24. So there's 74 pairs of gloves. It was a great deal for like $9. This glove size are on is a little oversized. That's Andre the Giant's hand, so I don't know where that came from. But these are large and they fit perfectly, even though, as you can see, it doesn't. Don't go by this. So just when in doubt, buy the large. If you got bigger hands, if your hand covers this, these gloves aren't going to fit. Next thing you want to do is protect your work area, and to do so, get some silicone mats. These are all available on Amazon. There's a variety of different brands out there. They're pretty much all the same. They come in different sizes. Some are small, some are large. I happen to find really large ones. These are like 32 by 24. They fit my workbench perfectly. This is your normal average size. The size of, say, a leveling table, that's the size. And these, usually you get a pack of 2 of them. Now that you have your work area protected, you'll want to get things to keep yourself clean, keep your area clean. And I found that Walmart has a 3-pack Parents' Choice baby wipes. There are 100 per pack, and they are, well, let's just say they're nice and wet, and they do a really good job cleaning the resin off of everything. I don't use alcohol to clean these. I use the baby wipes to clean them out, and they clean out just fine. And they are not that expensive. These for this 3-pack of 300 cost $7, I think. They're not that expensive, and they go a long way. They do a really good job. So now let's talk about what you need in the way of tools. You're going to need measuring equipment. I know your first inclination is, oh, I'll just get the mixing cups that have the graduations on it, like these. You know, these are what, 8-ounce cups. This is 8 ounce. That's 8 ounces to that. That's 8 ounces. Okay. Here's what the problem I have with them. It may be different with other brands, but this particular brand of cups that I got, they're not accurate. 1 ounce times 2 does not equal 2 ounces in these measuring cups. In reality, 2 ounces equals 2.5 ounces on this measuring cup. These have graduations on the side. One side is in milliliters, up to 100 milliliters, and the other side is up to 3 ounces in half-ounce increments. So I will take one of these, fill it to the 1 ounce mark, and this one is marked A for the resin. This one's marked B for the hardener. And the resins we use here, unless it's a deep pour that uses a special 2-to-1 ratio, the majority of the resins you get are going to be 1-to-1 ratio, which means 1 ounce of B for 1 ounce of A. So I will pour 1 ounce of B in here. Now, what I found in mixing these, just by happenstance, because I was always use these and not this, I poured 1 ounce into this. I let it settle. It was 1 ounce. Oh, that's not bad. That's pretty accurate. Okay. I poured the other one into this and let it settle. And I looked, it was at 2.5 ounces. And I think to myself, well, that's not right. Because if I were to use these graduations to mix my resin, I'd pour in 1 ounce of B. And then thinking this is accurate, I'd pour in what I would assume to be 1 ounce of A. But in reality, it would be less than 1 ounce of A. So if you were to continue doing this, I haven't gone above the 2.5 mark, so I really don't know how accurate any of these other markings are. All I know is that when I put in 2 ounces, it came up with 2.5. Something didn't add up. So if you were to do that and use these markings explicitly for mixing your resin will not be correct. You will have too much of one, not enough of another. So let's say you started with A, you would have more resin than hardener. It won't cure properly. If you mixed B first, you would have more hardener than resin. It'll cure too quick, and it could flash cure on you. So I don't use these, and I don't know what brand this is. I'd have to go look it up. But I would suggest, if you were to use marked cups like this, verify them before you do anything else, just to make sure you're getting your perfect 1-to-1 ratio. So I don't use these, and I have found other that came with other. I had, which one? I think it was the Bond Crafter. No, it was the Craft. Yes, Craft Resin came with some of these, and they were also not accurate. So with that said, you will want to get yourself a set of silicone mixing cups. Let me be more specific. Silicone measuring cups. I don't mix in these. I actually mix them in these. I measure with these. So I will pour in, if I need 2 ounces, I'll pour 1 ounce of this B. And I will pour 1 ounce into this of A. And then I will go to my next steps. mix them, warm them, whatever. This set includes 4 of the 3-ounce measuring cups, 1 8-ounce measuring cup, 2 mixing sticks, and it also includes some of these tools, silicone tools. These are very handy. For example, let's say you just poured your dominoes or some other mold and you have resin that's built up along the edges here, and it can cause bleed over. All right, so this has a little wiper on it. You just take this and wipe it across. It will clean the resin off of that and leave a good barrier so that you'll get a nice dome without overflow. This I use for measuring things like mica. So let's say I'm going to add enough mica for a couple ounces. I'll just scoop out what I need. So I'll take a scoop like this. That's good for about an ounce, I found. That's about an ounce's worth of mica. And I'll just dump it in. And then when I'm done, to clean these, you're going to like this. There, it's clean. You can do that and just wipe it off like this, but normally just a couple of those, that's all you need to do, and you can switch to another color and not cause any contamination, cross-contamination. So these tools are great. You'll love them. This point right here is good for getting bubbles out. You can drag it along the edges. You can lift bubbles. You can, I have these molds that are dragging keychains. They have really fine, intricate, very fine passages. There we go, intricate. Say that fast 100,000 times. Intricate. Why not just go get the mold? Here's the mold. All these little passages here, these little valleys, trap air. So if you got a bubble in there, you can pop the bubble out like this. And that's what this tool is good for. It's for getting in here and removing air bubbles from molds like this. Okay, so for measuring, these are great. This is a highly suggested item as an essential. They also include 4 pouring cups. These are 10 millimeters, all the way to almost to the lip is 15 milliliter. I normally fill it to the 10 mark, which just keeps it right about there. And I use that for pouring into molds like this, where you can have controlled pour. Molds like this, where you want just the right amount for each cell. They're really great to have, and they are included with this particular measuring set. Another essential item, paintbrushes. This set, I'm not sure what the amount, how many were in here, but you can see there were quite a few in there. They're 4 different sizes. They're not just various colors. They're 4 actual different sizes here. There's blue, purple, green, and white. And if you could see, each one uses a different size head on it. These are great for brushing in mica into molds. For example, these right here. I would fill in between all these areas using these, and then I would come back and brush in over the top with a regular brush with a different color mica, and I'd have 2 different colors in these molds. But these little brushes work great for getting into these little gaps here and making a 2 different color painting on the molds. Also great for putting eyeballs into like turtle molds where they have really small eyes. And you get in there and you put a little eyeball in there. You can even, on these little molds, color in like the legs. You can put little color and stuff on these with these brushes. They're great. I highly suggest getting them. Another item you're going to need is alcohol. 91% or better. The higher the percentage of alcohol, the better it is for this particular use case, because it contains water. That extra 9% to make it 100% is water. That's 9% of water. If you use 71% or 70% IPA, which is isopropyl alcohol, if you use 70% IPA, you're spraying 30% water. As a disinfectant, that's fine, but it's not good for resin work. You want 91 to 99% alcohol because you want it to evaporate quickly. Alcohol is great for removing the surface tension, and that's what helps pop bubbles. It also is good for helping resin flow into all these little grooves and not leave behind trapped air, because that's the problem I had the biggest problem with this one, trying to get bubble-free castings from this mold. So I figured out, spray some IPA in there and slowly pour in the resin and watch it flow, and it will cover and complete the mold and trap very few bubbles. If I do get bubbles, I use this or this to get them out. Now, like I said, I normally paint these molds. So if I were to use, that's another thing about these brushes, when the head wears off or falls off, don't throw the stick away, because you can use this to get in here and pull bubbles out. And if you're careful enough, you can do it without disturbing the mica that you've polished in or burnished into the mold. And these are really useful tools. They're really good. That's all I can say. Now you can get spray bottles like this from the dollar store, or you can get the bigger spray bottles. Your choice. I found these work really good until they don't. I suggest not grabbing these when your hands are all gooey with epoxy, because apparently that's what I did with this and it no longer sprays. But hey, it's 50 cents, okay? Spray bottles, alcohol, you'll need them. The next thing that I suggest getting is a thermometer. Resin cures based on a chemical reaction, and that chemical reaction creates heat. Now you want to normally warm up your resin so that it blends together better, but you don't want to overheat the resin either, because you don't want to take 90-degree resin, mix it together, because when you do, it'll become 100-degree resin, and then when it hits 104 and above, it'll start to cure. And that's known as flash curing. And I have had it where I took a cup like this out of the bubbler to remove the bubbles, went to pour it into the mold, and it got this far, and it cured. It turned into a glob. It never made it to the mold. It was hot. My hand was burning. I had to actually take the thing and put it on my concrete floor and walk away because it was that warm. So you have to be careful mixing not to overheat. And that's where the thermometer comes in. This is an infrared thermometer. You can get it at like Menards, Home Depot, Amazon, anywhere online. They're like $20. And you just point and shoot. Point your LED laser where you want to take a temperature, and you get the reading. I normally get my resin to about 76, 77 degrees before I mix it. And then I mix it for 3 minutes and take it off, let it rest a few minutes, take a reading. It's usually about 84 by then. I'll put it in the bubble remover. When I take it out, it's going to be close to 90 degrees. It's almost to just the right temperature for pouring. But you have a limited amount of time at that point because of the heat. It starts to cure and it'll thicken up on you. So you need to time it just right. So, essential item, thermometer. Essential item, paintbrushes like this. Essential item, mixing cups. You don't need these. Okay, I've already stressed that these are not accurate, so you don't need these for measuring, just mixing. These are the perfect size. If you could find these at Walmart, they're 8-ounce cups. If you find these without the ridges, there are a lot of these size cups have ridges going around them. They're not good for mixing because they'll trap resin in them, and you'll have unmixed resin when you pour. As you pour it, it's going to pull that unmixed resin with it, and you're going to have splotches of uncured, unmixed resin in your mold, which is not good. So you want smooth wall cups. I use these the majority of the time. I don't remember I think these are 6-ounce, but I don't remember for sure. But they're solos. They're smooth wall. They fit great inside the remover. They fit okay in the warming tray. They fit perfectly under the Resiners mixer. I also have larger ones like this. These are 10-ounce, I believe, or 8-ounce. No, these are the 8-ounce ones. No, 10-ounce. Honestly, I don't remember what the size is on these, but they're a little too big for the majority of the stuff I work with. To put it in the bubble remover, you have to put it off to one side, otherwise it'll suck itself up to the bottom of the remover or the vacuum. Like that. It'll stick to that. So I have to put it off to a side, otherwise it doesn't work properly. So I rarely use these for anything more than mixing a large batch. Then I move it to smaller cups to help reduce on heat and curing. But one thing for sure, this is a Resiner's hand crank mixer, and these cups fit perfectly. They are absolutely perfect to use with this mixer. This is a $13 hand mixer, and as you can see, just the right amount of room underneath. You get a good mix of all your resin. So these come in great for this. So those are my mixing cups. Those are essentials you need: mixing cups, measuring cups. You'll need at least one of these. I have refillable ones. I just get a bottle of butane and I refill them, and so I can reuse it, because these things get expensive. These are like $2, $3 each, and they don't last that long. You can go through these in one sitting. You can go through one of them, and that adds up quickly. I think I bought 4 of these for $14 and a can of refill, and these things will refill and refill and refill until they can refill no more. And it's a great idea. Now, what you use these for is to remove bubbles. So say you have your mold on the table and you just finish your pour and you see some bubbles, you light it up if it wants to light up. There we go. And you just wave it over like the resin like this, and it just warms the surface up enough to break the surface tension so bubbles rise and pop. Now, another way to do that is with the alcohol. You spray your alcohol over the surface, and it does the same thing. It breaks the surface tension and allows bubbles to pop. One side effect of this, though, is if these are overfilled a little bit, if you have a dome on them, you break this tension that goes between the cavities here. And you can actually, if you have a lower one, it will flow. Water seeks its own level. Epoxy is the same way. Fluid seeks its own level. So if you have a low cavity and a high cavity and you spray this with alcohol, there's a chance that you could break the surface tension between them and create a river between, and then both will be the same height, which is okay. That's fine. But they'll join each other as well. That's where these come in, and you can scrape the surface and remove that and replace the tension so that they don't touch each other, because then you have to worry about cleaning up afterwards. These are helpful for that. Now, spraying these into the mold before you pour helps with the resin spread into the mold and helps push those bubbles out. But like I was saying earlier about using 70% with the water, that alcohol is going to evaporate. It evaporates rather quickly. You can actually watch this boil when you put it into a warm, if you spray the surface of a warm pot of resin, you can watch it boiling, because that's not bubbles that are popping. That's actually the alcohol popping. And then you'll see the bubbles start popping. But what happens is, if you have a high water content IPA like 70%, then it'll leave behind water, and that water eventually will create a bubble. So you will have bubbles in here, even though you're trying to get rid of bubbles. So that's why I recommend always go to 91 to 99% if you can get it IPA. Now, key critical safety information here: alcohol is extremely flammable. When it ignites, you will not know that it's ignited, because there is no flame you can see. It burns cleanly. I don't know if anybody's ever seen like the F1 series, the alcohol fuel cars, where suddenly you see a pit crew dancing around, and they're dancing around because they're on fire, but you don't see they're on fire because alcohol burns so clean. Well, if you spray your mold with this, put this away. Don't use this until you're absolutely certain that all the alcohol has been evaporated. Otherwise, you could cause some damage. So, cannot stress enough, these two do not mix. They do the same job, but they do not mix. Now, another essential item, a deburring tool. What this is for is, after you demold, you have this rough edge. You just take this tool and you cut away the edge. You smooth it out with this tool. It takes practice to get it right. I don't know if you could see that on a camera, but the tool, the knife blade itself is shaped a certain way. You can see that it has grinding. It's meant to go one direction only, and that's towards you. It doesn't work very well going this direction. Actually, if you go this direction, it can dig in and gouge. So you want to go one direction. So let's say that, all right, you go this way and you pull it across you this way, but you got a burr on this side you want to get rid of. Flip it over and do that. So you can see how it works, just like that. So this is another essential tool. It's a deburring tool. It has replaceable blades. These come out and you replace them with new ones. Tweezers. Anyone who has pets or kids knows that stuff flows through the air. Hair especially. Even with kids, yes, you have hair flowing around. I know, I've had them. And for some reason, resin attracts hair. I have cats. And I can go through, there's no cats down here. There's no hair on me. I use a tool to get, the sticky thing to get the hair and everything off before I do anything. But yet I still wind up seeing a piece of hair or something get into the resin. And that's where tweezers like this come in real handy, because you can get in there and you can grab it and pull it out. These, I'm not sure what they came with, but they came with one of my kits. They have a very sharp tip on it. And they bend up once in a while, so they have to be straightened out once in a while, but these are invaluable. I use them all the time. You can tell by the residue on them. Now, that covers the essentials, for mixing and safety and keeping things clean. Now here's a couple things that I use that I recommend using. Some T-pins, safety pins. They're not safety pins. These are T-pins. They're used for, well, just about anything. But I use them to open up the bottles of ink because the ink comes sealed. And this is the Let's Resin stuff. And what they show you is to take a knife or a straight razor like that and cut the top off. Well, you can be cutting that off and squeezing it, and the next thing you know, you have ink all over the place. So what I do is I just take the pin, I set the bottle down, and I put the pin right in the middle, and I push down like that. You can see. And then when I pull it out, you're clean. You're not wearing ink. It's not all over the place. So get some pins like that. They're great. And all right, you've just mixed enough resin, 4 ounces. Your mold takes 3.2. Now you have this extra resin. What are you going to do with it? Frogs, turtles. Get yourself some little molds like this. When you're done with the main project and you have some left over, go ahead and fill these in. Color them. If you're using clear resin, color them, because you can still do that before it fully cures. And pour it in, fill these in, let them cure with the rest of your stuff. And then you have frogs and turtles. You can give them away with your stuff. You can sell them. You can let the kids have them. Just make sure that they're old enough to know better and to swallow them. But these, I have hundreds of these now because, I always mix a little more than I need. And great. Just good idea to get these. Have I covered everything? I have covered everything that you need to get started, except for, well, the resin. Okay. I see on Facebook a lot, what resin can I use? What resin do you use? What's a good resin? How much, where can I get this? What kind of resin is this? All right. There are several brands out there that are well known. Bond Crafters, J Diction, T Expert. All 3 of those resins come from the same manufacturer. If you looked at the labels of all 3 of these resins, they all have the same manufacturer's labeling on them. So if you find T Expert on sale, you got the $2 or 2-gallon kit. That's 2 1-gallon jugs of A and B. Normally it's like $90 retail. If you see it on sale for $69, great deal. Let's say you have J Diction, these right here. Let's say you bought these, all right? Now you want to get more. You want bigger bottles, but the gallon size of this, which is 2.5, this is a quart. This is a gallon. So as you can see, there's quite a big difference. So now you see you like J Diction. You want to get more J Diction, but the 1-gallon size is $70. T Expert, you can get 2 gallons like this for $70. But I still have some of this left, but not enough to finish the job. Not a problem. Since they all come from the same manufacturer, go ahead, buy it. It's the same stuff. If you need further proof, it's the same sticker. Look at the caps. Same caps. Well, different sizes, but still. Serial number. Serial number. Notice it says JD for J Diction. T. That's a TP. Okay. T Expert. TP. 25. 25. Following code is something else, but still, these are all the same manufacturer, they're all interchangeable. So your Tea Expert, your Jade Diction. In fact, what's in these bottles right now came from this jug. I have blended this with that with this, because this is also the same resin. So whatever's on sale out of these three brands, they're all interchangeable. So you have choice of any one of these three. Now there are other brands, Chinese brands, that you might find for a better price. But until you look at the label on it and see where it's manufactured, you won't know if it comes from the same manufacturer. Chances are they are, but in this case, if you don't know, stick with what you do know, which these three brands are all compatible with each other. Craft Resin is a UK brand, and it is a thinner, what's called a low viscosity resin. It flows less like honey and more like water. Not nearly as well as water flows, more like an oil, but as it thickens, it gets more honey-like. But this is great for using in molds like this because it flows better and is less likely to trap the bubbles, flow under instead of over. But I haven't tested compatibility between this and the others, but because it's a lower viscosity, I would not try. But it's a good brand, Craft Resin. You can get these, the gallon kits, I think for $40, $50, and it's good resin. So any one of these brands is good resin to have. And they all come out nice. They're easy to work with. They mix well. And the most important thing is they don't trap a lot of bubbles. So any one of these brands is good resin to have. And they all come out nice. They're easy to work with. They mix well. And the most important thing is they don't trap a lot of bubbles. So that about covers everything that you need to get started. I hope this video is helpful. I hope that I've helped ease your mind on just what you need. I will have links available for most of these items, available on Amazon. Of course, Walmart. Go to Walmart, get your Parents' Choice, fragrance free. These are great. These are indispensable. I can't say anything wrong about them. Get yourself some little molds like this. Oh, you can also buy the silicone for making the molds. And, you know, these, I think, these were a set of 3 or a set of, they weren't that cheap. I know these were, I think there's about almost $20 in molds between these. But once you have a couple of these pieces made, like these, you can get the silicone and you can make more molds and just have them stacked up ready to go. So if you do a lot of resin work, you have a lot of leftover resin, you can fill these up and you can have all kinds of fun with these. So I hope this helps. And if you like this video, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and hit the like button, and we'll see you in more videos. Have a nice day.